Have you ever heard a knock at your door, went to go check it, and no one was there? What's up, cousins? So I'm back with another story time, so let's not waste no time and let's get into it. So for this story, we're gonna call her Mimi. So she's out apartment hunting and she needs to find this apartment in this expensive neighborhood for a good price. Now this location was perfect for her because it was right next to her job. So of course she went ahead and got the apartment. Now it wasn't even a couple days before she started hearing knocking at her door. She said she would hear a knock every night at 3 a.m. Every night. She would get up, she would look through the peephole, and no one would be there. So after a couple of days of this happening, she just kind of brushed it off because she just figured, okay, it's just some kids playing at her door, knocking at her door, so she thought nothing of it. So the next day, she wakes up, she get ready, she goes to work. Now, while she's at work, her boss asks her because she pulled a double. So she ended up having to close the store that night. So when she gets home from work, she remembers she has to take a test the next day at school. Yes, y'all, she is in college. So she stays up attempting to study. She's at her dining room table studying for this test she has the next day, but she keeps falling asleep. So she does get up and she makes her a cup of coffee. So even though she didn't have this coffee, she still falls asleep. And what happens at 3 o'clock in the morning? She hears a knock at her door. So at first she just thinks she's dreaming until she hears the knock again. So again, she gets up, she walks towards the door, she looks out the peephole, and again, no one is there. So again, she pays it no mind, she walks into her bedroom, she goes back to sleep. So attempting to fall asleep, she hears the knock again. So at this point, she's really annoyed. Mimi gets up, she walks towards the door again, she looks out the peephole, but this time, it's an elderly woman that she's never seen before. So as she comes back from the peephole to open the door, by this time, the woman is already down the hallway. So she peeks her head out, yelling out towards the woman. So she's like, hello, can I help you? Like, why do you keep knocking on my door? Because she's really agitated. So the lady turns around and just tell her to come here. So Mimi's like, okay. She walks up to the woman, asks her, why do you keep knocking on my door every single night? The lady responded back and said, he's in your room. So Mimi just got this overwhelming feeling of just fear. After this woman told Mimi this, Mimi looks at her apartment door, looks back in the woman's direction, and the woman is gone. Mimi didn't understand why the lady just said that, but she believed her, so she ended up going to her neighbor's apartment and knocked on their door to use their phone to call 911. When the police had got there and searched her apartment, they ended up finding a man in her closet. And Mimi never knew this guy has broken into her house. Apparently, he's been breaking into her house every single night. Every time she heard that knock at her door, that man was in her room. Now, how did she not see him? How did she not notice? I have no idea. She said she just thanked God for the woman that came and told her. The same neighbor's phone that she used, she went back over there asking the neighbor, like, hey, have you heard of this woman, seen this woman? She started describing the older woman. Now, the neighbor did tell her that, yes, the woman that you're describing lived in your apartment and she died in your apartment. She ended up dying a couple months before Mimi ended up signing the lease for that apartment. What do you guys think? Do you think that the older woman was looking out for Mimi, or do you think
Y'all, these stories are creepy. Hey y'all, welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny, and welcome back to another episode of Crazy Creepy Story Time. Let's get into the first one. This old lady started to give me the creeps. Let's get into it.
Oh my gosh, wait till you hear the story. It is so creepy. This girl writes, something bad happened while she was camping, but she's not sure what. So about 6 years ago, her and her now ex-boyfriend had decided to go camping. She said the campsite that they picked was beautiful and they were able to come in through some rough trails. She said their campsite was really close to some natural hot springs and a huge waterfall. They were in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely nobody was around. So they set up camp next to the car, went hiking, soaked in the hot springs, enjoyed the waterfall, and eventually came back and made some dinner. She said it all went really well. It was all very normal until they woke up the next day. She wants to give some context to how they fell asleep that night before so that it's easier for everybody to understand. Before they went to bed, she put her food cooler and her stereo that they brought into the back of the car and locked it. She said she put her keys in the small pouch of her backpack, and her backpack was placed at the furthest point away from the door next to her sleeping bag. Her boyfriend was sleeping closest to the door, and he had a pew-pew next to him. Also, you know I have to use that term because I don't want to get banned on here. So anyway, she said that when they woke up, they felt great, they slept real hard, and everything seemed normal from the inside. When they went outside, though, everything was complete chaos. The fire pit that they made was completely torn apart. Their cooler had been thrown and scattered all over the place. and their stereo had been smashed to pieces at the base of a tree. Every single door to the car was open, including the trunk. They both stood there in silence, looking around, taking it all in, and now everything just seemed wrong. She said it was just a mess, and it just seemed too quiet. So her boyfriend then accuses her of not locking the car doors and that some animal must have gotten in. But she swears, no, I locked the door and I put the keys in the book bag next to my sleeping bag. So she goes in to go get the car keys and they're not there. She said she ended up finding them later, laying next to the car on the ground. So they quickly threw everything into the car and just left. And for the longest time, her boyfriend refused to talk to her about what had happened. And then he finally spoke up just before they got home, and he admitted something terrifying. He said that he had a dream that night that something was leaning over him, holding his, staring at him. And when she started to ask more questions about it, he got really weird and just said, I don't want to talk about it, and you shouldn't talk about it either. She said, I keep trying to forget about it, but I just can't. Something really wrong happened at our campsite that night. Ugh, so freaking creepy. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have your own creepy story, just send it to the email